What's going on, everybody? Welcome in here live TV, Game Plus Network, Mean Streets. Chris Meaney here with you. Thursday night football happening today. Hurricane season on the East Coast. Everybody be safe. Just had the power flicker just moments before we got on here. So hopefully we are good to go on this show. Those hanging out live, smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, leave them there. Start and sit. We're taking all that stuff here today. Tomorrow and Monday will actually be heavy hockey shows on Mean Streets. Going to get together with Eric Young, take part in a live fantasy hockey draft over at Underdog, and we'll be doing some fantasy hockey sleepers, some previews, some team previews and stuff starting next week. We're just really a couple weeks away from the NHL season happening. So I want to take care of the hockey fans out there as well. Some NHL futures, some cup futures, some goal scoring futures. And as I mentioned, get you set for your fantasy hockey drafts. Going to have rankings live at ftnfantasy.com. Sleepers, busts, breakouts, old faces, new places, a lot of hockey talk. Really tomorrow and Monday, we got a lot of football stuff over at Game Plus Network to help you get kind of set up. All in football, Jake Seeley, Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays. Betting with Benny on Mondays and Fridays. He's going to get you set up over at Game Plus here on our FTN Network YouTube page. The NFL betting show happening this Friday as well. We're going to have Kyle Murray, Taylor Mathis, and Benny Ricciardi coming your way at 5 Eastern on Game Plus Network. Look for that, or on FTN Network, and look for that over at Game Plus Network as well. So a lot of football stuff here. And for today, because it will be hockey on Friday and Monday, I'm actually going away. So we were doing some hockey, just shows, episodes for you guys. So if you are looking for anything football related, I mentioned those shows with you guys. Also, ftnbets.com. Subscribe for free to our FTN Network YouTube page. We got videos coming left, right, and center, some prop videos, some pick videos, absolutely everything to help you guys get set up. And today will be usually on Fridays, I kind of give NFL props for the weekend and picks against the spread, some totals, some overs, a ridiculous teaser, things like that. I will do that on this show here today. But of course, we will preview tonight's football game. Thursday night football, Browns and Steelers happening in Cleveland. Going to be windy, going to be chilly, next to the lake. I've been to a couple Browns games. I know what it's like there. Actually went to the game a couple years ago between these two teams when Myles Garrett went off and threw his helmet at Mason Rudolph, almost killed the guy. Yikes. Looking at last year's matchups between these two teams, low scoring, a little bit different, of course. Big Ben was there. TJ Watt was there as well. We'll get into Watt. The Steelers have had their way with the Browns. They won both matchups last year. They kind of held Nick Chubb in check last season as well. One game was a 40-point total. It was a 26-14 game in favor of the Steelers. Another one was 15-10, so 25 points. This total here checking in at 38. Depending on where you look, again, Prop Shop Parlay Calculator, your friend, best possible odds. You don't got to go surfing around. I'm seeing Cleveland 3.5, 4.5. I got them in the bet tracker for Pittsburgh at plus 4.5. I think this is too many points. Stefanski doesn't have a history of beating the Steelers or covering or even winning really inside this division. He hasn't had a lot of success covering spreads inside this division. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. We have Bryon Cook in the house, of course, former football player, lead analyst over at FTN Data. He checks in every Thursday with us. We're going to preview tonight's game, see the edges that he sees, and then we'll get a little bit of a sneak peek into the rest of the games happening this week on Sunday, see who he likes, some mismatches, games he's looking forward to as well. And as I mentioned, I'm going to have some props on this show for tonight's game. Not a whole lot because I really don't see a lot happening. I am on the Steelers to cover. If you can get 4.5, 4 still, I would go that way. I think it's a field goal game. I think it's I don't think we'll see a lot offensively running the football with both backs. There are two wide receivers that I like in this game. I think the receiving yard props are pretty low, but I won't have a lot that I really like. I'm not going to try to force it here, but I do have some Sunday picks and some props and things like that. I see some people hanging out in the house. DCMC trade value. We have Phil Mike in the house. He's looking for, bench 2. This is good. We'll hit on this stuff here with Brian. We'll talk about some start and sits as well. We have G Clove in the house as well, looking like a bit of a start and sit 0-2 things happening. So we'll talk about all that. Daily Handle, appreciate you. Stay safe. Everybody on the East Coast, absolutely stay safe. Those in Nova Scotia and, East, North Nova Scotia, Cape Breton, and of course in Newfoundland as well, as they're going to experience some nasty weather here over the next couple of days. But we'll take a quick break. We'll bring in Brian. Lots to get to here on the show. And again, those hockey people, I've seen some hockey people jump in over the past couple of days. live draft coming your way tomorrow on Game Plus Network. And then on Monday, we'll definitely dive into some sleepers and some help you get set up for your fantasy hockey drafts. All right, take a quick break. We'll be back in a couple. Hang tight.
I can't say enough about what we've got going on over at FTNBets.com.
At FTN Bets, your bankroll can be profitable. With the FTN Bet Tracker, you can tell your favorite experts across all sports, including the NFL, NBA, and Major League Baseball.
Welcome back to Mean Streets here on Game Plus Network. I'm your host, Chris Meaney.
And with our premium content, you can take your bets to the next level. Only $49.99 a month. Use the tools the pros use at FTN. Our betting models run over 100,000 simulations of every game, with sides and totals in the NFL, the NBA, and more. Use the home run predictor to see who'll hit a bomb deep. Our NFL player projections will make you a DFS king. And the FTN Prop Shop always finds the best odds for your player props. All tools, projections, and models are powered by FTN data.
Welcome back in Mean Streets Live on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney, we bring in the GOAT, Bryon Cook, 5_4_6. My guy, Gators. We're going to preview the Browns and the Steelers happening this evening. A divisional matchup, of course, between these two squads. We'll get into a couple other interesting matchups. I got to talk Bills and Dolphins. Dude, what we saw from Tua Tagovailoa last week. Oh, my goodness. How about that second half from Tua and company? You kidding me?
Yeah, if those of you are big wrestling fans, you would know that Roman Reigns currently right now in WWE is the tribal chief, the bloodline Samoan. Well, I think there's a new tribal chief in town, and I think Tua is the guy. That's the honorary Uso tribal chief. He is playing at a high level, and you cannot be mad at the play that he has. So, awesome stuff.
Yeah. It was really cool to see. I know there's some Tua haters out there. I want everyone to succeed, honestly. Come on, let's root for all these guys. But Tua, the way he was able to come back in that game last night, and Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, it looks like a very, very explosive offense. But they're going to have their hands full against Josh Allen and company. The Bills just don't seem to punt. You mentioned wrestling, Set Bet Spike. We went live this morning with Eric Young, and he was talking about how the Bills just kind of punted in that game against the Titans because they just felt that. It's like, man, we're already blowing them out. Here you go. Here's the ball. We'll punt to you guys, and away we go. But let's talk about tonight. The line has moved all over the place. Just even as of yesterday, I saw 4.5s, 5s. I'm seeing 3.5s, 4.5 here. The Brownies favored the total at 38. Last year, Pitt took both of these matchups against Cleveland. They kind of held Nick Chubb in check. Of course, there is a different quarterback under center this year for the Pittsburgh Steelers as well as the Cleveland Browns. But no TJ Watt, man. Like that's huge to me. Like this guy he's obviously a beast. I was looking at some numbers, and shout out to Taylor Mathis as well. There's a video live on our FTN Network YouTube page. She's diving into some of her props. She likes Kareem Hunt tonight. But without Watt, 0-5, just straight up, a team that averages or has allowed 28 points per game without him, 20 with him. Defense looked great in week one. Defense is overall pretty good, but to me, this is the biggest missing piece in this game and the engine for the Steelers defense. And I think that benefits the Browns here.
Yeah, and one of those things that if you listen to Mike Tomlin speak this year, during camp about what they needed to improve. The number one thing that he said was, hey, and he's very transparent. We played terrible against the run last year. We brought in guys from secondary onto the front seven that could stop the run. That's what we wanted to do this year. TJ Watt is a big part of that, right? You're missing a perennial MVP, a defensive player of the year guy, year in and year out. You throw that in there, and now you're going against probably the best rushing offense in the NFL, arguably top 3 to 5. They have been for the last couple of years. So you're going to go against that without your best guy. I don't like your odds in terms of stopping the run, especially if you couldn't do it when you had him last year. So it's going to be interesting. I think a big game from Kareem Hunt, just because of his running style, will be welcomed for Cleveland. I could see that being the case tonight.
Yeah, over 400 rushing yards in 2 games for the Browns. Nick Chubb just came off an absolute monster game. I just love this guy, man. I just think I really do think he's the best pure runner in the game. It's nothing against anybody else. There's a lot of good running backs in the NFL, but I've always kind of had that mindset that he's just the best pure runner behind what is a really good offensive line. It helps him out a little bit as well, but he's got 39 attempts, got 228 rushing yards. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns, which all came last week. Maybe the Brownies should have kneeled or something last week. I don't know what happened at the end of that game. Certainly a sour taste, I suppose, in everybody's mouth there in Cleveland, but a good bounce back opportunity here. And something that we don't really see from him. I've seen the Browns live twice in Cleveland. One game, Chubb, it was kind of his breakout coming out party. Like Duke Johnson was on the squad, I think, at the time, and he wasn't really catching a lot of balls out of the backfield. And then he had a game where he had like 5 or 6 grabs. I was like, wow, this guy, I mean, unbelievable. It looked like he was going to catch 40, 50 passes. And then they bring in Kareem Hunt. It's a great 1-2 punch, arguably one of the best in the NFL. We just haven't seen him involved through the air as much. But last week he caught a couple passes, and I was like, this is when you add that element to what he can do on the ground. I mean, he's one of the best in the game, is he not?
Yeah, Kareem Hunt is the true definition, and this is why Kansas City took him. He's a 3-down back. I mean, he was a guy that you don't have to take off the field. And I think that with the Browns having that 1-2 punch, it really helps both of them because it keeps them healthy. But also, like Kareem Hunt, in some cases, is even better in the pass game than he is in the run game. Right. He's a very good route runner. He's strong when he catches the ball. He's good at making that first guy miss, and he can get up the field and make a play off of it. So where Nick Chubb doesn't excel, I'd say Kareem Hunt does excel, but you really can't take it away from his ground game either. He's a very hard runner, downhill guy, one cut, and he's going to get you some yards, and that's what I like about his running style.
So what have you seen from this Cleveland team through 2 weeks? I mean, in week 1, we saw a lot of Donovan Peoples-Jones. We know that the running back duo is awesome, right? They're fantastic. Mm-hmm. They're both going to eat today, get a lot of touches. Week 1 was a lot of Donovan Peoples-Jones. I saw week 2 was Amari Cooper, right? Mm-hmm. Who was leaned on heavily in that game. We saw a couple of end zone targets for David Njoku. But where are you at on this Browns team kind of 2 weeks into the season with Jacoby Brissett under center? And what is, I do believe, I don't want to say a must win into week 3, but this is a W that this team needs to get tonight at home.
Yeah, this game tonight, I think, means everything to both the city and the organization for different reasons, obviously. But for the Browns, it's nothing that I've seen that's unusual in terms of what they've done. Offensively, they knew they had weapons. They've leaned on them. And Amari Cooper was open the first week. I wish I had the numbers to pull it up, but he had to be open almost every play, it seemed like. So essentially, I'm sure they went to the film room and said, hey, this guy's running great routes. He's getting open. You got to keep your eye on him. You got to get him the ball. And that's what they did in week 2. Not to say that Donovan Peoples-Jones wasn't, but, you have your best receiver out there and he's getting open. You want to take shots with him. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that this week. They're going to try to get him more involved again. But also, like I said, the offense to me has been doing exactly what it needs to do, not turning the ball over, establishing a run game, and then also being able to make plays in the pass game. You'll see some more Njoku this week. I'm sure he'll be very much game plan from the Steelers to try to keep him out of the game. And then on the other side is the defense, a top 5 defense on paper, but essentially they really haven't shown up the way that they would like to. And that's not to say that they're not a good defense, but they have too many mental mistakes. And I think you're seeing that mostly in the fourth quarter and late third quarter. All of their MAs have been around that time. It's not been throughout the first three quarters. So when it gets time to make a play and settle down and buckle in, that's when you're seeing guys miss assignments, be in the wrong spot, not make that pass breakup, or not finish that tackle, that sack, that pressure, whatever it may be. So this is going to be a good game to test Cleveland and see if they can put it all together in all phases of the game for 4 quarters. They've done it for a couple quarters. They've yet to have a full 4-quarter game in all 3 phases.
Yeah, I mean, just let that one slip. It felt like they were just in total control of that game against the Jets. I mean, it was under 2 minutes. They're up by 13 points. Is really, I think I saw ESPN Stats and Info tweeted out 98% chance. I mean, you see those things all the time. It's sports; these things happen, right? They really do happen. But it was a Jets comeback. I like the Browns to bounce back here today, but I feel like it's going to be a tight game. If you're Cleveland and you're looking at the film, you got Najee there. Obviously, he's going to be a focal point. He's going to get a lot of touches. He hasn't been super efficient dealing with a foot injury and things like that. But if you're Cleveland, you got to think this Deontay Johnson kid, we got to have our focus on him because week in and week out, Brian, this is a guy who gets all the looks no matter who the quarterback is in Pittsburgh.
And as I mentioned before we, got into the regular season, Deontay Johnson, when he catches the ball, when his catch rate is up, he is probably one of the best receivers in the league, right? I won't go as far as say top 10, but he's definitely in the top 20 in my opinion, because he can get open and he can make big plays, but he had the drops for so long. So now he's catching the ball. The offense is a little bit stagnant. That's probably because they're nursing a little bit of that Najee Harris injury still, trying to keep an eye on him. But also, everything else that's going on, right? The offensive line isn't playing that well. It's hard to get the guys the ball when they don't have time to throw it. So it's going to be an interesting year for Pittsburgh, but this game in particular, going against a stout front seven, will be interesting to see if they can even get that ball to Deontay Johnson, if they rely on the RPO heavy, or if they decide to, traditionally do the drop backs and see if they can, protect them and get time.
There hasn't been, outside of just looking at Deontay through 2 games here. I mean, no scores, of course. The Steelers won that first game 23-20 and then 14-7. They played in, some low scoring games and they're not moving the ball that well really in offense, but Deontay's got 22 targets here in 2 games. That's a lot of targets. That's good. That's inside the top 12 in terms of wide receivers. He's been a target machine over the past couple of years. I believe he was 3rd in the NFL in targets last year as well. So as I mentioned, it doesn't matter if it's Ben, Trubisky, and we'll see Pickett at some point. I think Deontay is going to be the number 1 guy. Are we going to see some Pickens? Do you buy into that squeaky wheel thing when you hear, players say, I want the ball more. Then you hear in the organization, maybe we should get the ball more. And then you hear Trubisky this week. Yeah, I got to get the ball to Pickens. I got to look for him a little bit more. Watching a lot of film and from those first 2 games, and it looks like he's kind of wide open. But right now, Trubisky's not seeing him.
Yeah. I think that's, once again, you go back to the Browns, right? We see guys that are open. You go into the film session, and the coaches coming to the quarterback saying, hey, you got to get them the ball. We have to find ways to get our guys the ball at the end of the day. Pickens is no different, right? On the Steelers side, he's probably, we'll see what happens when he gets his shots, but he's been more open than many of the other guys that they have, right? Yeah, Chase Claypool, who you always want to think that he's going to be a big factor in any game, but, he hasn't really lived up to that yet. He's not there yet. So George Pickens is open, man. You got to take advantage of that. And I will say that this Brown secondary right now is, I won't say it's in shambles, but it's off to a slow start right now. So if there's any week to take advantage of Denzel Ward maybe being off of his game, maybe not the best safety play, it's this week. They have to find a way to get those guys the ball, Johnson and Pickens. It's got to be this week for Trubisky.
I said Tyler there. Kareem Hunt 2+ receptions on Prize Picks. Prize Picks seems like a smash play. He did have 2 in the last game. I think he's got 6 through 2 games. I feel like I'd rather take the rushing yards than him, but I could see him catching 2 passes. We just talked about how explosive he is as well through the air. He gets it down there in 3rd down situations. He has surpassed his rushing prop in each of his first 2 games. I mean, he gets enough play on the ground. This is a run first team in Cleveland. So both of these guys, even off a short week, we could see a little bit more Kareem Hunt. The rushing attempt prop for Nick Chubb is 15.5. I mean, this is a guy that I feel pretty comfortable getting 17, 18 carries, even off a short week there. But before we wrap up from this game, how do you see it playing out? Do you see this as like a bit of an offensive struggle? Thursday night football, both teams kind of running the football here a little bit. How do you see this playing out? I see you're rocking that sharp Cleveland sweater. It looks pretty good. I'm kind of with you on the Brownies.
Yeah, man, they got some great gear. Love the Browns. That's my squad. But honestly, I'm going to go Cleveland this week. I think that they have the talent to beat Pittsburgh. And I think that it was a big wake-up call this week to lose to a team that they know that they're better than in such a dramatic fashion. There was a players-only meeting held this week for the team. And I'm pretty sure that this is going to be that game where maybe they either turn it around heavy or they fall in their own depths. So I think that they'll turn it around heavy this week and they'll get off to a great start, and then they'll make some plays on the defensive end to make up for what happened last week.
D says, would you play Hunt, other RBs, or Kamara and Edmonds and Stevenson? I'd maybe wait out on Stevenson if Damian Harris doesn't play. I think he could be a top 20 back. Of course, you're going to want to play Kamara as well. I think I'd hold off there. You wait for Kamara. If Harris does play, you're in a tough spot with Stevenson there. You're in a tough spot. It's always tricky, right? If you're going to roll out a Thursday night guy or wait on injury reports for the weekend. But it does sound like Kamara is going to play this week. He did return to practice yesterday, so I would wait it out on the upside in Alvin Kamara. But if you want those points, those guaranteed points, it's not a bad idea to potentially roll a Hunt. But me personally, Deesh, I think I'm waiting it out on Alvin Kamara there. Let's put you on the spot, Bryon. Give me a guy who it could be Chubb if you want, it could be Hunt, it could be a big name player or a sneaky player that you got, a guy that you're looking for tonight, maybe to show up and could surprise some people potentially. It could be offense, it could be defense, everything.
On Cleveland or just in general?
Either team, just in general in the game tonight. Who's going to be the star tonight?
Who's going to be the star? That's a good one. I honestly think, can it be more than one? I would say that I would venture to say that from the Pittsburgh side, I'd venture to say that front seven, for specifically the 4-down or 3-down lineman, whatever package they choose to go with tonight, will be the stars. I really think that they're going to play with some fire without TJ Watt. I think you could see a lot of pressure on Brissett tonight. And also I think that they're going to make a conscious effort to stop the run. I think they're really going to say, hey, Jacoby beat us, with your arm, which, I mean, I think he can beat them with their arm, but I think that they're going to take their chances. And then on the Cleveland side, I would probably venture to say, from a defensive standpoint, keep an eye on probably JOK. I think JOK flies around the field tonight in terms of just being in the right spot, stopping Najee Harris. He's going to be a tackle machine tonight. He's one of the best sideline-to-sideline players I think I've watched in the last 3 years. Yeah, he really, really is great in coverage. He's really great playing downhill, and he can go. Like, he can really go. So I would venture to say that he's probably going to have a good game tonight, based on what Pittsburgh likes to do. And then I would say that Pittsburgh's, front 4 or 3 are going to probably have the better game of the two if I'm picking between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. So,
low scoring game. Yeah,
I think that whoever can reach 20 will be the winner. First one to 20 wins.
I like it. First one to 20 wins. That's fantastic. Guys, I see some questions in here. We'll break and we'll get to them as well. Yeah, Phil is talking about the wind in Cleveland. Always windy near the lake. It's always kind of, I feel like, windy at First Energy Center. So we'll see some runs for sure. But I do agree with the take. I think Jacoby can. I don't think Jacoby's as bad as some people let on, right? It's just some moments so far. It's only like third start here with Cleveland, building a rapport now with some of his guys. Certainly Mari Cooper showed up in a big way for him last week as well. So I understand maybe being a little hesitant to roll out Deontay or Cooper, but I think, volume alone, those guys are at least wide receiver 3s for you in fantasy football. And we just talked about the targets, especially for Deontay, 22 targets here. And Amari coming off the big game, 10 targets, 9 grabs, 101 yards for him as well. So Those will be the two guys, I do believe, but I think we'll see a lot of running, and I do agree with you. Low-scoring game, 1st to 20 gets it done here today. Let's take a quick break. Bryon, hang tight, dude. I want to ask you about your thoughts on the rest of the week. Of course, let's dive more into Miami and Buffalo, and we'll take care of some of these start and sit questions that you have as well. Now's the time, guys, to hit up Bryon and myself. Keep your lock. Mean Streets continues here on Game Plus Network. Welcome back in. Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network, as well as our FTN Network YouTube page. Hanging out with Bryon Cook and myself. Smash the like button. You have any comments, any questions, by all means, leave them there. Bryon, former football player, lead football analyst over at FTN Data. We are thrilled to have him on the squad. Okay, just a couple questions here. We can kind of get into this stuff. Hugh Cole says, I have quarterback Wentz, wide receiver A.J. Brown, Mike Evans. His running backs are Cook and McCaffrey. Tight end Kittle. Looks like Kittle's going to be back this week. Flex, you got Garrett Wilson. Nice. Great start to his NFL career. He says he's 0-2, kind of panicked, but the team on paper looks pretty good. So I don't know if this is a straight-up question. It's just more of a feel on your team. I think you got some nice pieces here. You're obviously going to need a replacement for Mike Evans this week, who's going to be suspended. You know, Kittle's coming back. That's good for you. You got two solid running backs in Cook and McCaffrey. I like Dalvin to have a bounce back week this week against Detroit. What do you think about Garrett Wilson? Good first couple games from him so far. He looked fantastic last week.
Yeah, I'm kind of upset because I had him. It's not like I needed him. I'm still 2-0 in fantasy right now. But I had him on my bench this week. I mean, I still put up like 180 points. But like I had him on my – I had a lot of points this week. I had him on my bench, so I left 30 points on the board there. But, I mean, you got to think he's going to get more targets, right? They said coming into week 2 they wanted to get him more looks. So Joe Flacco, one thing he's good at is he knows how to get his guys involved, and he gets the ball out quick. So you can expect Garrett Wilson to have a steady pace. I'm not saying 30 again, but you can expect him to get his targets, get his catches, get his yards. And then in terms of Carson Wentz, I mean, that's a tough one. That's a tough play.
That's some moments to start, but it's probably unsustainable, right? But it's been a pass-happy offense so far in Washington.
Well, that's the thing. It's been pass-happy, but they're going against the Eagles, who have 2-3 of the best, slot corner and outside corners in the game right now. I mean, we saw what Darius Slay did last week. So it's just one of those things where I don't really like anybody against Philadelphia's defense a lot of times, just because of how loaded they are in all phases of their defense. But you live and you die by it. So we'll see. Maybe
Right.
Carson Wentz does something really good this week, couple things really good this week, and finds the antidote.
A revenge spot for Mr. Wentz.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be hesitant to start Terry McLaurin. You mentioned Slay and what he was able to do to Justin Jefferson. I feel like that potentially could be the matchup. Could see a little bit more from Curtis Samuel and Jahan Dotson in there. Yeah, your team's okay here, Cole. I wouldn't give up. It's just early, 0-2. It's okay. It's not like real NFL when you fall down to 0-2. You're not going to make the playoffs. You can go on some runs. It's nice that you got Kittle back. And like we said earlier, I think Cook is a bounce back. You got Garrett Wilson, put him up in that wide receiver spot and then get somebody else there and flex. But yeah, it is a tough spot for Carson Wentz. We'll see if he can do all right for you. Phil says, I need to bench 2 guys, DJ Moore, Bateman, Deontay, Akers, and Zeke here. Who are 2 guys that you would bench in this? I think I'd still probably bench Akers, even though he looked great last week. He had a couple really nice drives, and then he lost some goal line work. Henderson came in and snaked a touchdown from him and some other goal line opportunities. But I'm not totally there yet on being, that comfortable starting him just for now. I think we need to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, I was going to say probably Akers and DJ Moore. And the reason being is, Bateman's playing with Lamar Jackson, who's playing at such a high level. I think it wouldn't be very smart to do that. Zeke is also playing at a pretty high level given what he did last year and where he was. He looks a lot better than he did last year at this point in the season. So I'd keep both of those guys. Deontay, I mean, high target rate, right? You're going to get an opportunity with him. DJ Moore, I struggle to put in the lineup just because I know how good he is, but we also know that passing offense in Carolina isn't the sharpest right now with Baker. It's going to take a little bit more time. And he struggled to get DJ Moore the ball last week. So now Robbie Anderson, I think, is turning into his favorite target, as coincidental as that is. But it's still a work in progress on that passing offense. So I'd hesitate to put any Carolina receivers really in my lineup if I were you.
Yeah, and up against that Saints, right? The Saints and Lattimore. I think it's a tough spot for Baker and company, despite them being at home. CMC trade value. One league told Deesh he got offered Amon-Ra and Montgomery for him. Man, how about Amon-Ra St. Brown? I mean, this guy every single week, 8 grabs. He can actually break an NFL record this weekend if he can have another game with 8 grabs. I think he's tied with Michael Thomas and Antonio Brown for the most consecutive 8-game grabs, stuck on 8, I do believe. CMC trade value? Any concerns with CMC through 2 weeks? It's not the CMC of old, but he has had some moments so far in the young 2022 season.
I won't say that he's going to get back to the level he was playing at. I think that's very far-fetched given kind of what he was playing with at the time compared to what he's playing with now. But he will be consistent. And now I'm not going to say he's going to give you the same output, but he's going to be consistent. I do like Amon-Ra and Montgomery. I wouldn't scoff too much at that trade. I'd really consider that one just because that Amon-Ra is going to get his targets. And that's their focal point. That's Detroit's focal point right now, him and DeAndre Swift. Then Montgomery is the guy for Chicago, right? Him and Justin Fields pretty much carry that offense. So whenever something's in a pinch, it's one of those 2 guys that are going to be the guy to make the play. So essentially, I would take a look at that trade. And I guess it's kind of a feel thing. Do you trust CMC to continue to be consistent, or do you think you're going to get more output from both the combination of Amon-Ra and Montgomery? I trust Amon-Ra and Montgomery a little bit more than CMC.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think so too. And if you're getting 2 for 1 here, it could help out the balance of your squad. Amon-Ra is, I think people were a little on the fence about drafting him where he was going because they brought in Chark, they drafted Jamison Williams, they have TJ Hawkinson, Swift out of the backfield. Of course, you got Jared Goff, but Goff's looked great. The offensive line is one of the best in football. Amon-Ra is going to continue to eat all year, and Montgomery's got this sneaky little passing upside to him, right? Receiving yard upside. Last year, the last few games of the season, he averaged 5 catches per game. It doesn't seem like this team wants to throw the football all that much. Not getting a whole lot to Darnell Mooney, getting nothing to Cole Kmet. You're seeing a couple dump offs to Dave Montgomery. So you get a little bit of sneaky receiving upside there with some of the rushing opportunities that he's going to get inside this offense as well. Medi in the house, can't make up my mind on this trade that was sent to him. Getting Henry and DJ Moore for Sutton and Lamb. He says he loves Sutton, so it's tough. but in a bit of a light spot, RBs there. Derrick Henry is one of those guys that he may be the biggest buy low candidate in fantasy football over the first 2 weeks of the season. There's a lot of people that think he may be done. There's some people concerned about the offensive line in Tennessee. They're not really moving the football all that well. We just saw them on primetime against the Super Bowl favorites in Buffalo. So we can take that game with a little bit of grain of salt there. A better matchup for him this week against the Raiders. But are you in on acquiring Derrick Henry? Because he is giving up 2 volume hogs here. And Derrick Henry had 2 first downs in 2 weeks. Yeah, I mean, they're not moving the ball all that well. Lucky he found the end zone, last week to kind of save your day a bit. There's been a couple floor games there. Are you in on acquiring Henry on the bounce back, or do you have some concerns with him in this Titans offense?
It's tough. I do definitely have concerns with the Titans offense right now. I think that when they brought in Malik Willis, it instantly raised the red flag. And not necessarily because they don't believe in Tannehill. But with that being said, I think that created a little bit of controversy that didn't need to be there. So immediately, you think a little bit of a red flag with that whole offense in general. But this one's a tough one because Henry, like I said, he's going to get his attempts, and at some point he's gonna play better. At some point,
yeah.
I don't see this lasting all year. I don't love CeeDee Lamb right now just because it's clear that Cooper Rush likes what's his name from Ohio State.
Oh, Noah Brown. Loves Brown.
Yes. I just
second team offense running together. That's what we see all the time with backup quarterbacks. Where's my guy I always throw to in practice? It's not CeeDee Lamb. I don't run with the ones. It's Noah Brown.
So it's funny because in week 1, I didn't have Noah Brown, but I watched that game. I'm like, I definitely need to pick up Noah Brown right now because in that fourth quarter, that's what he was doing, throwing it to Noah Brown only. It's that's probably going to be his guy. And still, after week 2, nobody had claimed him, so I grabbed him. So Noah Brown is probably going to be the main guy. CeeDee Lamb will get some targets, but I really don't love Lamb right now. And then Sutton, it's just weird because that passing offense isn't very good in Denver right now. There's a lot of things wrong in Denver. Both offenses of Denver and Tennessee concern me. So it's one of those things where that you're going to get something from Lamb and Sutton. I don't know what I'm going to get from DJ Moore, but I do know Henry will come out of his slump. So it's just a matter of, do you think the upside of Henry outweighs the consistency of Lamb and Sutton? Really? That's kind of what I'm looking at. Or do you think it doesn't? In that case, that's how you should make your decision.
I like your backs here, actually, Matty. You got Swift, you got Jeff Wilson, right? I mean, there's another injury in San Fran with Tyrion Davis-Price. I mean, Wilson's a guy who's touching the ball 20 times. It could be a lot like Elijah, right? I mean, the efficiency may not be there, but you're getting a back as your RB2 who's going to flirt with, 17 plus carries week in and week out. You got Melvin Gordon, who's a decent flex. Singletary, I think, there's some frustrations with Singletary. It's just such a pass happy offense. They don't ever really want to run the football there in Buffalo, and Kenneth Walker could turn out to be something for you as well. I'd actually, I think, if you lose Lamb, you lose Sutton, then you're looking at a wide receiver core that's a little thin for you. Bateman is really nice, but he'd be your one. Ayuk, McKenzie, and Dotson. You're getting DJ back. I think I would just hang tight. But I do like the idea of you maybe getting Derrick Henry because there will be some good games coming for Mr. Henry. There really will be. And if you want him and you're thin at RB, now really is the time to do it. We got to break one more time. Let's break one more time. And I really will get into Buffalo and Miami with you. I want to get your thoughts quickly on a couple games that you have your eye on. So one more break here. We'll hang on with Bryon for one more segment. Hang tight, guys. Welcome back in. We'll save those questions for the end of the show. I'll try to rapid fire through some of those, but I want to give Bryon here the opportunity to touch on a couple games here. We have a board of all these matchups here. Tyler, if you want to chuck them up, you got Kansas City, heavy favorites here against the Colts, who've looked awful through the first 2 games of the season. Of course, we have what could be the game of the week between the Bills and the Dolphins. The Broncos and the Niners maybe it won't be a slugfest in terms of offense, but that one should be a pretty entertaining game, a tight game as well. What are you looking forward to this weekend? We also have Brady versus Rodgers, but we don't know who the heck these guys are throwing footballs to, at least on the Tampa Bay side of things. I don't know, man. They just signed Cole Beasley. Is Julio going to play? We know Mike Evans isn't going to play. Godwin's not going to play. What are you looking for this weekend?
Yeah, so obviously Buffalo and Miami are one of the big ones. And I just put in my notes here that, for the year, we wanted to keep an eye on their run versus pass balance. They're about 41% run this year, the Bills are, compared to 60 or 59% pass. Last year around this time, they were 40% run. So pretty consistent with what they're doing. And to combat that, maybe they should lean on the run a little bit more because Miami has given up 5 yards per carry and also 9 yards per catch. So the defense isn't playing really well in Miami, but they're giving up 5 yards a carry. They can truly can control the game if they run the ball. But the other 2 games that I like this week, first, Dallas and New York. The reason why I like this is a Dallas squad that actually is playing surprisingly well under Cooper Rush, which most people thought that might be it for them once Dak went out. I think that they just have enough weapons that they can get it done. But New York is playing inspired football. I think that that's something that can't be overstated. Saquon looks like a brand new Saquon Barkley. And Brian Daboll knows how to get him involved as well as rely on his other targets. He's not putting too much on Daniel Jones, which I think that at times in the last couple of years of his career, he looked a little bit overwhelmed, not knowing where to go with the ball. So I think this year you're starting to see a little bit more, and they're relying on his speed, using a little bit of read option with him again, but also letting him be more of himself. So I would love to see how that plays out in the NFC East, right, a divisional matchup. And then Las Vegas at Tennessee, the battle of the beatens, right? 0-2 versus 0-2. Who's going to get on track first? I think that it's been a little bit of an underwhelming start for Josh McDaniels and company, simply just because they're not doing the things that they thought they were going to do with their offense. And their defense is really just not holding up their end of the bargain. They got a couple pieces, but the pieces aren't really showing up the way they thought they would. And then you go to Tennessee, who once we, like we said before, have a lot of question marks. What are we going to get from them? Is their offensive line going to take it up a notch and prey on this hampered Las Vegas defense, right? Are they going to get Derrick Henry back involved? Are we going to see a Kyle Phillips game? Is he coming back this week? Are we going to see, Kyle Phillips get involved? One of my sleepers in the draft this year that I absolutely loved. And then, what are we going to see from Treylon Burks? Is he going to continue to develop? Because I think that there's some question marks there as well. What kind of player are we going to get from him in that offense? So those are my two games. Yeah,
I'm really looking forward to that. Actually, all those games that you mentioned, but in particular, like the Battle of the Beatens, as you mentioned, right? The way that game finished for the Raiders, giving up that game in their home opener. And I mean, credit to Kyler in Arizona. I mean, it was phenomenal stuff, especially Kyler. Are you kidding me? The guy scrambled for like 85 yards in like a 21-second span to get that 2-point conversion in there. That was fantastic. But the defense has a lot of holes, as you're right. And it's just some sloppy play offensively. We saw a lot from Adams in week 1, nothing really from Adams in week 2. Hunter Renfrow has, he's put the ball on the ground a couple times. It's been some sloppy play there. I don't feel like they use Jacobs as much as they should. And then for the Titans, I actually just feel like I feel like it's gonna be a long year. I really do. Some holes in the offensive line. I love the Phillips call. I think Treylon Burks is going to continue to improve as like the alpha wide receiver 1 in this offense. Like I like Robert Woods, but he's just not that true X receiver. I don't think he can handle like top coverage, and he's blocking. He's on the field to block and try to help out, this run game and things like that. He's a nice veteran wide receiver, but the true upside belongs with the kids that you mentioned, Phillips and Treylon Burks. And I think this could be a sneaky little shootout. I think we'll see a lot of points. So it could be a coming out party for one of those 2 rookies. And I do believe Devontae Adams is going to eat. It's just that secondary in Tennessee, man. They're young, they're inexperienced, and they just haven't been able to stop anyone just yet.
Yeah, they're still working out those kinks. And I think that's uncharacteristic of a Vrabel defense to not be stout. They got pieces in the front seven, so I never
They
really
do.
concerned there. It is that back end. They also have two good safeties though. It's really going to come down to cornerback play, which they've been very thin in. They want Caleb Fairley to do more. I think he's not there yet. One of the fastest players in the league though. So yeah. I think that he's got some potential. They just got to see it. Get out there.
You go to 0-3, that's it, and season. I know that the AFC South is completely wide open. I suppose if the Titans went to 0-3, they could find themselves back in it later on if they were able to win games inside the division. But this is a must win. And, the way that they got spanked last week, I'm sure Vrabel will have them going at home. There's no question. Yeah. Dude, always appreciate your time. We do have to get out of here. I'll get to some of these other questions in a little bit. I do believe Michael Pittman will play. Alex, it sounds like he's going to be good to go. So if he suits up, you definitely want to have him in your starting lineup. And Bryon Cook, have him in your starting lineup as well. Give him a follow on Twitter at 5_4_6, doing some fantastic work for us over at FTN. And good luck to the Brownies today. Why not? You're rocking the sweater. Go Brownies. Enjoy the game and enjoy the football this weekend. We'll touch base with you next week, sir. Appreciate your time. We'll be back here in a couple. We got some props and some picks to round out Mean Streets. Keep her locked.
At DraftKings Sportsbook, you can bet on nearly any sport imaginable. The NFL, the NBA, college football, college basketball, golf, the NHL, tennis, Major League Baseball, MMA, and more. Download the DK Sportsbook app on iOS and Android operating systems, as well as on your desktops or in mobile browsers. Get the best bonuses using promo code FTN. Remember, the only way to gamble responsibly is to win. Prize Picks is a creative new way to parlay picks based on expected fantasy point production and single stat projections. You pick 2 to 5 players and predict if they'll go over or under their projected fantasy point total or their single stat total. When parlaying the players, the larger your parlay, the better the payout. A 2-pick entry pays 3x. A 3-pick entry pays 5x. A 4-pick entry pays 10x. As a bonus offer, there's a flex play option. This provides an added level of security on your entry where you can decrease your multiplier received if you miss one of your entries but hit on all the others. At FTN, we have Prize Picks coverage for every sport in both article and standalone pick format on our Prize Picks pick tracker. Use promo code FTN for a 100% deposit match on your first deposit of up to $100.
Welcome back in. I got a couple picks and props for this weekend. Going to wrap up the show with tonight's props for the Thursday night football game. But here's what I'm thinking from a spread standpoint. I got some money line. I got a crazy little teaser as I always do in here. But, I am on Pittsburgh plus 4.5. I like the Steelers here today. If you're watching on Friday, you're watching over the weekend, don't be afraid to at me if I do get this one wrong. But if you're looking for a third one on this board, I would lean with the Rams at 3.5. I think they have their way with Arizona. I have a lot of question marks about Arizona. I think that was more so last week, that comeback on the Raiders as it was on Arizona. Kyler's great, but he has struggled against the Rams, a lot of pressure, and I think that's bad news for Kyler and company. But if you were looking for a third spread, Rams, I actually think that Washington covers 6.5 as well with the Eagles on the short. I know I have them in the parlay here, but it's a short week for them. Division game, 6.5 feels like a lot. I think Washington will hang. We'll see potentially the Eagles win by a field goal or so. But I really like KC. I'm not overthinking it. This is going to be my survivor pick this week. The Colts haven't showed me anything. I know Michael Pittman is back, but I just don't really care. The Colts, you got to see Shaquille Leonard back in the lineup. He would help the defense out, but KC's rolling offensively. Patrick Mahomes looks great. Clyde Edwards-Helaire looks fantastic here through 2 games. I know the Colts will probably be better this week after that beat down from Jacksonville there, but they played Houston, they played Jacksonville. They should be 0-2, right? This is a team that hasn't played anybody great, and they haven't showed me anything. Matt Ryan is not taking care of the football. They're not getting anything done offensively. So I like the Chiefs here to win by a touchdown. I like Detroit to hang around as well. I know Cousins will probably be better. It's not going to be under the bright lights of Monday Night Football. His 2-10 record there. He looked pretty bad against the Eagles, but I think that credit to Philly at the link. Place was bumping. Detroit has hung around, and they've hung around since Dan Campbell was the coach. Last year, they covered a lot of spreads despite not winning a lot of games. They hung around with Philly for the most part in that week 1 game. They've given up a lot of points. I expect Minnesota to be able to do whatever really they want on offense, but I think Jared Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown and Swift, you could see a backdoor cover. I think that the Lions keep this one close. I wanted to come at you guys with money line plays that weren't minus 300 and 400. So the Packers are road dogs. I like them plus money. Both teams have been great defensively, not so much offensively, but I think Green Bay will lean on their 2 backs in Jones and Dillon, and Lazard is healthy. So I believe that's the reason I kind of lean with Green Bay here. A lot of question marks in Tampa Bay, across the board. No Mike Evans this week. Julio Jones, is he going to play? And if he plays, is he limited? Probably. Russell Gage is just new to the offense, hasn't shown us a whole lot either. So I'm not really in on Tampa, despite it being their home opener. I think it's going to be a tight game. As you see, I got the teaser on the bottom. Bills straight up, KC, Rams, really to win, but plus 1.5. Las Vegas and Tennessee, I've teased the over down a bit at 40.5, but as you see on the right, I also think that 45.5 is something that will hit here. I think we'll see Las Vegas get at least 3 scores. I have some concerns about the secondary and the way the Titans are playing football. I think we'll see a lot of points in the Buffalo and Miami game as well, and not so much in San Fran and Denver. And then I have that Packers game in that teaser at plus 6.5, 4-1. KC, Pittsburgh, or KC, Philly, and Buffalo as like a little parlay there if you wanted to go that way. And Cincy, I think Cincy gets back on track against the Jets. Joe Burrow won't let them go 0-3, but my goodness, if they do, look out. It would definitely be a Super Bowl hangover, even though they didn't win it. And last year, the Jets did hang tight. So a little hesitant on the 5.5, but the Jets hung around. Here's some props. Going to have a whole lot more in our FTN bet tracker, but here's some props as well. And it's kind of just some studs. It's a little bit chalky, but there wasn't a lot out as of yet. Time of recording and helping my guy George, or getting my guy George to help me out with some of these boards. Jalen Hurts, over 50 rushing yards. He's got 147 in 2 games, 90 and 57. He's topped this number in 8 of his last 11 games. Devontae Adams, I already mentioned, big bounce back. Carr's going to go to him early and often in this game. And, just attack that secondary. We saw Diggs eat them up, and Diggs as well. Miami's kind of held him in check for the most part, but high total game here. Diggs has been unbelievable through 2 games so far, 270 yards. He's got 2 touchdowns. He actually has 13 touchdowns in his last 14 games. He scored a touchdown in each of his last 2 games against Miami. And then Christian Kirk is my guy. Going to go 3 for 3, hopefully, with him to start the season. I know it's a bit of a tough matchup against the Chargers, but the air yards, the targets, it's all there. 59.5 receiving yards. He's got 3 catches of at least 25 yards as well. He's been targeted deep down the field, and I like that. So give me the over on Christian Kirk. Going to have a whole lot more over at ftnbets.com. One more segment here with you. Going to round out the show with some props for tonight's game. So we'll be back in a couple. Hang tight. right, let's get into the Thursday Night Football props here quickly. I see a couple questions. I'll try to get to those. I definitely will get to them after. Tyler, if you want to check up these props, I'll get to them after in the YouTube section to see people hanging out here late in the show. But we do have to get out of here. Chubb, big Chubb day, a lot of carries, rushing yards, no TJ Watt. I think that's the big difference here. Amari Cooper and Deontay, those are the guys I'm going with. Just yards, not catches. It is a little windy, but double-digit targets for these guys. You could see it in this game. Steelers plus 4.5. Medi, I like the promo on FanDuel. Cleveland plus 3.5. I'm in on that. I think it's going to be a field goal game, but Cleveland plus 3.5 for sure. I think that the Steelers do hang tight in this game. Over under bats for George, I'd say 7.5. I'd take the over. I would go Fields over Rodgers, and I would go Lazard in that question, Quinn, and I will get to the rest after the show in our comment section. Thanks, guys, so much for taking the time to hang out. Enjoy the football, and we'll talk to you tomorrow. Cheers.